Ho, ho, ho. We're pretending it's Christmas. It's almost Christmas. It's Christmas season. We're in my house again. We're wearing red because it's the season.
Got our Christmassy stuff going
Christmassy
on.
stuff. I actually had my ugly Christmas sweater out ready for this episode. And it's too hot in my house. I've been doing too much baking, and I was starting to work up a sweat. So at least you got red. Close enough. Anyways, we wanted to talk a little bit about Christmas traditions today. Last year was my first Christmas episode for this show, and I was all alone.
It's so sad.
It's sad. So, I mean, I interviewed a few people in my family or whatever and kind of threw it together, but I kind of wanted to take that idea of Christmas traditions about whether people are traveling, staying at home, and all the kind of stories that go along with it. Because in my opinion, Christmas is all about family and friends. And now that I have friends that do the show with me, I thought it would be a good opportunity to do so. So this is not actually a proper Christmas meal. We basically just put it out there and said, let's put out our favorite little snacks and things that we wanted to share about what we like to eat at Christmas time. And yeah, it was a sort of an easy thing to do. So how about let's start with what we're drinking, since this is your show.
What we're drinking. So it's interesting because when I started researching drinks for Christmas, a lot of them are like, rum and cider to make like a hot cider, or a rum hot toddy, rum, or darker like a rye. And I really want to do something a little bit lighter this year. So instead, I decided to try a vodka base and decided to go pepperminty, because candy canes and peppermint are all about Christmas, right? So we've got two versions of a peppermint martini. They both have the same base ingredients to them, which is vodka, peppermint schnapps, and creme de cacao. They both are shaken with ice. The only difference is I've added chocolate almond milk to the second one to give us kind of
like a milkshake.
Exactly, kind of like a more decadent option for our cocktails. When you're mixing and working with milk in cocktails, it can curdle. So you can use an option like an almond milk or a coconut milk instead, which is less likely to curdle. Or you can use a higher fat milk. In this case, I did almond milk because chocolate almonds are really yummy together. So
they are. One of the reasons that it does curdle, by the way, has to do with the amount of fat that's in it. When we said fat is good, I think I mentioned that at least once a month. Fat is good.
That's just how we live.
But it's one of the reasons that when I'm cooking or baking and I have things in my home, I rarely have things like milk, half and half or anything like that. I kind of go with milk if I needed to have it for entertaining for coffee, and then I have heavy cream. Like there's no in between for me. So, and it's one of the reasons that I can cook with it, I can shake it, I can do all, and then it never curdles, just because it's got all that fat in it.
Yeah.
So which one are we having first?
I just tried the peppermint one. I couldn't wait any longer. I've been looking at them for a little while as we've been getting ready. So the peppermint one, so it's got like a really refreshing kind of a taste to it.
It smells like candy cane.
It does, right? So it's actually, this
would be a nice, I know it's supposed to be a cocktail, it's supposed to be before dinner, but I know the idea of mint and stuff is supposed to help you kind of digest. So I'm kind of thinking that it might be nice, like, either late afternoon or after dinner, right?
These are desserty to me. These are like, if you're having your coffee and you don't want to do like an Irish coffee or anything like that, but you just want to have a little bit of a tipple with it. This is a nice one. Late night, like you said, or with your cookies. If I'm going sweet, I'm going sweet all the way, and I'll have a sweet cocktail like this with cookies.
I know.
Bring on the sweet. I know you don't love sweet as much. You like sweet a little bit, but not as much as
I like little bits of it.
Yeah.
In very minute proportions.
And I think I'm going to play around with this chocolate one and see if I do it with warmed up.
So this would be a great, so this is a Reka, this is an Iceland vodka. This would be really great. I happen to like vodka and water or vodka on the rocks sometimes. Especially when I just want something really cool and sort of sip on. That used to be my go-to drink when I used to go to the bars when I was much younger. Partly because it was always...
Not like killer Kool-Aids like the rest of us?
No, I didn't. I was a vodka water girl because it was always cheaper. Because you can order a shot of vodka and a glass of water, and they would only charge you for the shot as opposed to the mixed drink. See? I was always trying to save money back in those days. But anyways, it's a really smooth tasting. So for cocktails where you don't want that, flavor, the harshness of an alcohol to work through, something lighter like the Reka vodka would be a good fit.
This is really nice. Like you don't get that taste of the vodka at all.
No, it's actually, and I was concerned. Yeah, but it's not overwhelming. Oh, that's nummy. You know what? I'm not usually a big fan of chocolate and mint, but I think with the chocolate almond, I think I have to make sure that the recipe that we include has the chocolate almond milk because I actually like that
That's
better.
nice. It's not overly rich. It's
No, and it's softer.
yeah.
It's softer. The peppermint schnapps is almost just the finish.
Yeah.
Right. So we're sipping on the. You're tasting all of the chocolate and the almond. I know. It's like, okay, we're gonna have to save some of this for the dessert course later.
Yeah, forget the taping. We're just gonna drink these. We'll come back in a little bit. No, they're really good. I'm actually excited about them. So sometimes the cocktails we try here are ones that I've tried before and tested and gone, these are good. These are ones that I just made blindly, knowing that I do like peppermint at Christmas time. So and to garnish it, because we did them really simple today, you can dip your rim in water and then dip it in crushed candy canes. And let it hold there a bit to help the candy canes get wet so they'll stay. Or you can do it in like a simple syrup kind of thing and dip them in something chocolatey as well too.
Oh, like little chocolate candy
like
things.
Like little chocolate, sprinkles that you'd have on cake. Or you could do it with chocolate flakes as well too.
Oh, that's good. Oh, you know what would be really good? Almost like, the crushed chocolate grahams.
Oh, yeah, that might be good. On this one, on the chocolatey one. Yeah, and both of them with just a simple, because if you don't want to go all of that, like some of us who are balancing all of the things, just drop a mini candy cane and it'll make it pretty and festive.
Or, I'm just thinking, I would put a candy cane in this one because it would really stand out because there's not much color there. And then for the chocolate almond one, I'd put an ovation stick.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, again, this is another high school story.
Ovations.
I had a few girlfriends and those are back in the days when we used to, parents were away. We decided we wanted to taste something from our parents' bar.
I never did that.
Well, we did. And occasional time we thought it'd be fun to use an ovation as a stir stick. And I didn't even like ovations.
That's not a bad idea.
But it works with this. It didn't work with what we were drinking.
Well, not with rye or
no, it was like we were doing like fuzzy navels, like peach schnapps and orange juice. So no, the chocolate ovations. We were amateur drinkers back then. My goodness. We were just starting out. We were newbies. So one of them, before I get into this one, so this one's a really easy one. This is one of Norm's new favorites. So I'm not talking about Christmas old traditions. This is one of the new traditions. He's probably going to come home shortly and he's going to be thrilled that I made this because I didn't tell him. So this is just chunks of Parmesan with almost like a black truffle dip. Black truffle and honey dip. I know. It's like, what?
Oh, I'm so excited.
So you have to say this when we have our bubbles later. You'll have to save some time with the bubbles. It's really good.
I'm going to try one now, but it'll be really good with the bubbles after.
Yeah. So it's basically you just put in a little pot just to warm it through. I wouldn't do it in a microwave. It's a little hot. But you're melting honey with some black truffle oil, a little bit of wine, and then some black pepper to give it a bite.
Oh my God, that's so good.
It's the honey. It's like this sweet and the salty and the funk and it's got all the things.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
That's trouble.
That's why I put a big block of Parmesan. You got to do this right.
Oh my God, I'm so making that. That's gonna be like my go-to late at night. I'm just gonna keep it in the fridge, warm it a little, and then take a little bit more.
Yeah. So once you make some French retaining, it's a matter of just getting a chunk of cheese out of the fridge and having this as a little dip on the side. But I like how the black pepper has got a bit of a finish, so it cuts through it a little bit, so it's not too sweet. And I used a fairly soft honey, a local wildflower honey, actually from Boards, which is one of our local honey producers here locally. And that's just because I have lots of honey in the house.
That is lovely.
Okay, so you tell me about your cheese balls, and then I'll go into my.
Okay, so my cheese balls. I've got 2 cheese balls that I've done today.
Nothing says Christmas like a cheese ball.
Like a cheese ball. And so it's funny because Steph had said, prepare something that that is like a tradition in your house or whatever. And I've said this before on the show. I love my mom. Not a, how do I say this? Not a big cook, not a fancy cook, really simple cook. Yep. And so, but cheese balls came on the scene relatively later in my life, as far as like home life. And this first one's a really simple one that's like screams being raised in the 80s in Canada. It's like a block of cream cheese. Actually, it's multiple blocks, but I did 1 block. A can of flaked ham.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Salty canned ham.
Yes. And it's the only thing I ever use any canned meat for.
I guess you have to drain it first.
You do have to drain it first, yes.
The fact that you have to put that in the instructions, please drain your ham.
Right. It's got, this one's got marble cheese, so shredded marble cheese, so like, again, very
oh my God,
80s
this is so kids
Canadian.
friendly.
And I do add Worcestershire and Tabasco sauce.
Oh,
So it does have a little bit of a kick in it to have a little bit of flavor. Now, traditionally, your cheese ball is rolled in nuts. And these are not rolled in nuts today because we have a lot of nut allergies around in our home. And I wanted to show it's okay to have naked cheese ball as well too. The nuts add a nice texture to it.
You can also just sprinkle it with like dried herbs or whatever. So even dried parsley or something like
Even
that.
if you just wanted to garnish it with, like you say, a dried parsley or just something green and pretty on the top. You can serve them. I've seen recipes where it's served on a bed of like arugula or usually arugula mixed greens to make it pretty. And so our second one is when you don't have time to even get to the grocery store to get the damn flaked ham, because I know how those days go. It's actually an Epicure based one.
Oh, I used to sell Epicure long time ago.
And why I featured it, go for it. Why I featured it was I don't want you to be afraid to use those shortcuts if you need to, because we do talk a lot about really beautiful, cool things.
We're all about the shortcuts.
And you know what? And if there's one thing that I can say for Epicure is that they make the most amazing dip mixes, and not just dip mixes, but you can mix and match them and change them depending on. So this is actually not a cheese ball product. It's part of their core. If anyone's ever had their, what is it? It's like their cheesy extravagant dip or something along those lines, where they take 3 of their spices and they add in cheeses and sour cream and mayonnaise, and
you used to have a 3 cheese dip mix. Is that what?
Yeah. So, but this is actually 3 different mixes. The one I'm talking about is like lemon dilly.
Oh.
I want to say it's like a chive oniony type one, and then this bacon cheddar one.
3 onion was the one.
3 onion, that's it. So the lemon dilly, the 3 onion,
still remember it.
and the bacon ones. So 3 cheese and bacon.
Like the Tabasco's got a good finish on that.
Sorry, just kind of, so it's not just creamy bland with the cream cheese and the ham, but that little finish of the Tabasco helps to kind of
wash it down with some peppermint.
Not really the best match when it comes to pairing.
It's Christmas. There is no pairing rules for this today.
So we had tried a bacon ball locally. We've got a
sorry. that pairing was bad. Okay, so we're gonna have to open some bubbles at some point. Oh man.
So I would normally drink this with a soft light red wine personally.
Okay.
For what it's worth. I would not drink it with peppermint typically.
Okay.
Actually, but this peppermint will actually, I find, pairs really nicely with the poula bread that we're going to talk about in a bit.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but anyways, yeah. So we'd tried a bacon one before, and it's made with fresh bacon and all of the. And I one day was like, I need a cheese ball. I don't have any of the things, and I literally dumped one of my mixes in with cream cheese and prayed to the gods, and this came out, and it's pretty good. So again,
one of those too, and
don't be afraid to
get
try one of those. Oh my god, I laughed so hard at you drinking the peppermint with it. That was
I was trying to be all strong.
Like
every time, how many times have we been? I just use the same knife.
I don't care.
No, I meant like I use it for the same cheese ball. I was laughing because I think the last time we sat at this dining table, I also had something awful.
Oh, right. That would be the sparkling episode that we like to refer to all the time. You had the exact... See, we reversed the roles this time, because I was going to make the face last time.
I think I actually sat in this seat last time, too.
Oh, that was funny. So what else have we got? You've got some other treats here that are yummy.
I want to talk about that one later.
Okay, so let's talk about this one, because I've already dipped. I could not wait on the eggs. They look so good. I'm going to move this. Look at that.
Just so I can zoom in on it later.
Sign language.
Okay, I'm like, move that. Okay, so talking about Christmas traditions. So that was the new tradition. This would be an old tradition. So this is one of my mother's favorites. She's very well known for this. I remember cousins and aunts and everyone saying that if Auntie Di is coming over, make sure she's bringing her deviled eggs. And I have a couple of cousins that would pretty much eat nothing but deviled eggs, like for dinner.
Yeah.
They would just like hoover those. They might take a little bites of here and there, but basically they were eating the eggs. And so one of those things that when I had the catering business, I found that I was always trying to do these higher end fancy things. And then one year I decided I'm going to put deviled eggs on my appetizer menu. I had never had so many requests for I made so many deviled eggs that year. And it was because it is cheese ball. It's one of those things that brings back memories for a lot of people. Everyone's mother, aunt, grandmother, somebody has made deviled eggs. So everybody likes to compare theirs about what they put in theirs. And right, my mother puts relish in hers, and everyone's got a thing, right? she puts relish in hers and then a little bit of paprika, of course.
My mom does the paprika. So I was actually going to say that's the one thing I do remember my mom making was deviled eggs.
That is it. Well, it's called deviled eggs because of that paprika on the top to make it that red color.
Very 70s.
But then I wanted to do things up a little bit more because it just seems strange to me that people are willing to pay so much for a whole tray. So I decided to change it up a little bit. So I came up with all these different, some of them I found online. So I'm not saying that these are all my ideas. There's a bunch of them. So on one side, I just did bacon and cheddar is an easy one, right?
So good.
Yeah, so this one, I used a caramelized bacon. So my bacon I actually cooked with, yeah, that's just because I had some in the freezer, as one does. So the caramelized bacon is basically just cooked with brown sugar in the oven. So brown sugar and chili flakes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you get a little bit of a bite. So it's really good with the cheddar in there. And then it kind of holds it together. And that's an excuse for breakfast. And then this center one, this is a mild curry. You can pipe these in if you want. But if you've got too many stir-ins in your deviled egg filling,
it's hard to pipe
hard to pipe it anyways. And if you just scoop it all in, it looks kind of rustic. And then you can put garnishes on top and it's fancy enough. So this one's just a mild curry. So a curry and eggs is actually a really traditional flavor combination. So I thought it's one of the ones that kind of, it sneaks up on you and thinking, oh, that's interesting. And then you start eating more and more of them. They're so good.
So is it just like a curry powder in there?
I just use a straight curry powder and I just add it to taste. And I'll talk about the garnishing after. And then this one is a little bit more gourmet. So this is a smoked salmon cucumber with dill.
That was what I was afraid to try until I knew what was in it.
I hope you're okay with smoked salmon.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So
if I'm not, we'll find out in a bit.
I will eat it. But anyways, it's just I had a little piece of smoked salmon. This is a great way to use up things in your fridge, right? So you can have leftover cooked bacon. If you have some other kind of deli meats, you can use chopped up or cooked veggies. You can use things like pesto. Just kind of get creative and sort of sample things with egg yolks. Or next time you have a hard-boiled egg, kind of play around with what tastes good with it. I always like to have that combination of saltiness or whatever. And then this last one, it's got the pecans on it. I add a little bit too much of the chutney in it, so it's a little runny. And I only could fit 3 on here. But so this is mango chutney, a little bit of goat cheese, and then pecan. You can either
interesting.
Yeah, so it makes it like this sweet.
Really
it's like this sweet, sweet and tangy with the goat cheese. Sometimes you can actually chop up the pecans and stir it in. And then I'll always add a pecan on the top anyways, because that signifies to any guests that there's nuts in that. Right?
That's smart.
And I'll always have them on separate platters if there's nuts anyways. But for the same thing with the garnishing, so these salmon and cucumber ones, I will actually garnish that with dill on top. Or a piece of salmon that will signify, hey, there's fish in that. The mild curry one, I will dust that with more curry powder just to make sure. And then even if I was using an actual curry paste with it, I would still dust it with curry powder so it shows. Yeah, and then the bacon and cheddar, same thing. I'll either put a little crown of finely grated cheddar on top or a piece of bacon or something just to show what's in it.
Well, and I think the bacon, like looking at them, the bacon ones are fairly obvious they were bacon. I went straight for those. And then bacon all the way. And then the middle one, I was like, oh, it's a deviled egg with something. I thought maybe mustard, but the curry explains it. And the one in the end, I suspected it was fish, but wanted to know what I was eating before I put it in my mouth. So that was...
It's fish.
And then I was really unsure about the pecan ones because I just didn't know why they were runny. But now I know, and that's totally cool.
So here's my how-to on how to boil eggs so that you can make perfect deviled eggs too. So lay the eggs in the bottom of a pot and just cover them with cold water. I'm using medium-sized eggs today, but you can use small or large as well, depending on how big you want them. Add a splash of white vinegar to the water, turn the burner to high and wait for it to boil. As soon as it starts simmering, turn the heat off immediately and cover the pot with a good tight-fitting lid and start timing. I like 10 minutes for small eggs, 11 minutes for medium, 12 for large. When your time is up, cool them down immediately with cold water and even add some ice if you need to. As soon as they are cool enough to handle, carefully start peeling and using some of the water to dunk them in and out so that it helps them loosen the shell. This is actually going to help them come off very easily. Now, all you have to do is cut each in half, put the pretty yellow yolks in a bowl, and add your favorite stir-ins and garnishes. Deviled eggs are so easy to make. I bet you start enjoying them all year round now.
There we go.
Okay, we're back, and we have bubbles. I think I've had this Segura Vieras. I think I've had this on the show before.
I feel like I've had it with you for sure.
Yeah. I'll have to go back and check. But anyways, one of the reasons I always have some in the house, especially at the holidays, because I happen to like Spanish cava for doing mimosas and especially cocktails. It is dry. It's made in the champagne method. It uses different grapes, but you wouldn't necessarily know the difference. And price points always usually under $20 a bottle.
Nice.
So it's just one of those, pass your glass, please. It's just one of those It's a super dry, super crisp, have any time of day, good for celebrations. So if you don't want to, have anything too sweet, which can give you a headache, or you're going to be mixing it with something like fruit juices, having something super dry actually is a better option.
You're now making my go-to Christmas morning drink.
Oh, what's mine? No, it's mine.
Okay, it's mine.
So, let you share your Christmas. Well, I'm nibbling on this stuff because I can catch up to you. You share with me your. Oh, you want juice?
Yeah.
So I just bought PC. Oh, it's new. Oh, did it dribble? I guess it's really full.
It's really full.
It's really full. Anyways, I brought out a couple of other PC makes, President's Choice makes these box juices that are 100% juice, and they're cool little Tetra packs you can leave in your cupboard. So I had one that was orange mango, which is kind of fun for something different. I have a pineapple one, so you can buy a bunch of them and leave them in your cupboard so they don't take up room in your fridge, and then you can pull them out to make a little mimosa bar or whatever in the morning.
So a tip when you're making mimosas, I highly recommend putting your juice in first.
See, and I do it the other way.
I know, but anytime I've done it, champagne or bubbles first and then juice, it goes.
Oh, because you pour it too quickly?
Probably. Not all of us are Stephanie Pichet. So
yeah, go low and slow.
Yeah.
And that's only because I want to control the amount of alcohol I have in there. Because if you put the juice first, it's harder to tell how much you put in there.
That's irrelevant on Christmas morning.
Oh, yeah. No, I got to make my way. So what do you guys do Christmas morning?
Okay, so it's changed from when I grew up with my family now than when I grew up. So when I grew up with a French-Canadian family. We always had an open house Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. And people came in and out. We had appies like this. The develed eggs were out for sure. The cheese balls, the taco dip with the salsa,
mm-hmm. and the 7-layer dip.
Exactly. Kind of out and around. And the beer flowed, and the wine flowed, and the whiskey flowed, and whatever else we were drinking that night. And then the next morning, of course, Santa Claus came, and the kids got up, we had a big breakfast, and then we always had our Christmas dinner at lunch. My mom liked to cook the turkey overnight, mm-hmm. make it really, really good and dry, so that, sorry, Mom. I know Mom will never listen to this. This is why I'm sharing that. It wasn't actually that bad, but it was drier than what we've learned since then. And then everything would be done and cleaned up after lunch, and we could relax for the rest of the day. So that was the nice thing about that tradition. In our home now with my husband and my children, we're doing the juggling, multiple, like my parents are divorced, his parents are divorced. There's a whole lot of things going on. And for a long time, because I'm the eldest in the family, I hosted everyone. Mm-hmm. So I had Christmas Eve with my dad. We had Christmas morning or evening, depending on with my in-laws. Usually my mom and my mother-in-law switched, mm-hmm. Depending on, so that they could see the kids open the gifts. And so now that things have quieted down a little bit and our children are older, we tend to do Christmas Eve is fairly low key. It's usually just us. We might finish decorating the tree. I say that because my tree's been up for 2 years, so I haven't had to decorate in a while. But the last time we did it was Christmas Eve. My husband and I have a couple of drinks, might have a cocktail, something like that. The kids we open Christmas jammies.
Okay.
On Christmas Eve is our big tradition that I instituted when I had children. So they get to open that one gift. Because how torturous is it as a kid to be sitting there looking at the tree at all these presents, you can't open one.
Yeah. No, we always had to wait until the morning.
Yeah, so every year we open Christmas jammies.
We just got up at 4.
Which is what I'm wearing today. Yeah, we did that too. I'm wearing today my Christmas jammies from a couple of years ago. My children shopped at a local lingerie shop for my jammies. So
lovely.
I don't think they really understood what they were buying me at the time. It's very, very short and yeah, anyways. So we do that. And then Christmas morning is the kids opening the gifts. Usually grandparents come over to watch. We do have the traditional turkey dinner. My favorite part of the holidays, and I may or may not have mentioned this at Thanksgiving, and Stacey and I have alluded to it a few times in some of our shows. Not everyone has family at Christmas. And it's a challenge as someone who wants to open everything up to the world. I would love to spend, and it sounds really cheesy, I would love to spend Christmas Day at a soup kitchen or, helping other people. But I have to recognize that I have these family obligations as well too, mm-hmm. that I can't skip out on. So what we do, and it's not in a negative way by any stretch when I compare it to soup kitchen work, because it isn't. But we open our home. Every year I announce on social media, okay guys, dinner's at this time. Anyone who doesn't have a large family or doesn't have a meal that's happened to you, if you might be estranged from your family, our door is always open.
You do that at Thanksgiving too.
We do it Thanksgiving and Christmas and usually Easter as well too. And we've been very fortunate that I've had some friends who were like kind of acquaintances who we didn't know really, really well say, hey, I saw your invitation. And we've formed these really amazing bonds with these people since then because they've come over. We had a beautiful, crazy family dinner because my family is not simple. We are very complex. We put the dis in dysfunctional. Not even the fun, just the dis. But we welcome people to our table. There's always too much food, and it's been really special. And I say about because Stacey's come, her parents are no longer with us. Her sister and she are all over they're all in different ends of the world a lot of times. So we love having her. She's become a part of our family. And we've had other friends who become part of our family through it. So that's kind of a really special one, I think, for me personally. And my kids are learning from it because my kids are like, everybody's welcome. They don't know who's going to be at the dinner table given on a given day. Right, but I think that fostering that idea of an open door is pretty cool.
It is very cool, and I think you should make Stacey bring her dessert with her.
Oh, we've already got a plan. She's bringing the wine. We had a wine a few shows ago that we were like, this would be really good with turkey, and I'm like, you're bringing this on Christmas dinner. She's like, I got it. Oh yes, and she usually brings us a dessert. I'm trying to remember too. It was like, it was we had the wine show for the day. It was a specific kind of wine that was released in
the Beaujolais Nouveau.
The Beaujolais Nouveau, yeah.
There you go, having Beaujolais Nouveau Day.
Yeah, so we're going to hopefully have Beaujolais. You hear this, Stacey? Beaujolais Nouveau.
Beaujolais Nouveau for Christmas Day. Very good.
With our turkey, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, ours isn't as, ours is pretty quiet actually. Christmas Eve is, I say that's pretty high. We have a lot of people coming and going, but I don't have to do a whole lot, which is very strange for me.
Let's say, because we talked about opposite for some holidays where you're cooking
Christmas
nonstop.
Eve is always with Norm's side of the family, and they have their own traditions, and it's a French Canadian family, so Christmas Eve is the bigger day. So we never had to have those squabbles as a newly married couple years ago on who was going to do what. Right? Because it was just like his mother said, we want Christmas Eve. My mother said, I want Christmas Day, and was like, perfect. Yay! Couldn't be, even though my maternal grandmother was also French Canadian, my mom was more about Christmas Day anyways. So it actually just worked out really well. So Christmas Eve's always here. We have it here. It used to be at my mother-in-law's, and their house is quite small, and as the family kind of get growing, and there was more people, and she also didn't turn people away. So I remember we used to have bent tables. There would be like tables on tables and tables into the next room, and you couldn't even see people down around the corner. But it was a lot of work for her. And then as she was getting older, and then I had a big house, and I kept saying, let me do something, let me bring something. And somehow it morphed to, okay, well, you can host it, but I'm bringing the food.
Okay.
So she basically goes, and she doesn't and it's a lot of trays and stuff that she pre-orders from grocery stores,
Smart.
delis, whatever else. She might bring in chicken. She used to go and bring in a turkey. But no one ever sits down at a table on Christmas Eve here, right? So it actually just works out well, especially when the kids were younger, because we have nieces and nephews, and everybody's coming in and kind of running around and talking about their what they wanted for Christmas and what's going on in school that year, and we're doing all the catch up, and kids are running around eating fruit. So just having all those nibbles was fine for us.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, and it worked out for us. But again, I didn't have to do anything aside from make sure the house is clean, which is good. And then Christmas Days at my mother's, and it used to be a little bit larger crowd, and my brother doesn't live in town, so it's just us. So it's usually Norm and I and my son Alex and his girlfriend Bree. And then we used to have some aunts and uncles who are in town, but a lot of times they're with their families.
Yeah.
So anyone basically in our immediate family that happens to be in town, so aunts and uncles, whoever happens to be there, my mother invites them out to her place. Yeah. And that's very traditional. She does traditional turkey, coleslaw, mashed potatoes, occasionally turnip, which I hated when I was a kid, and I actually happen to love turnip. I love turnip now. I mean, yeah, it was one of those things. I used to think it smelled, and blah, blah, blah. I think she still makes carrots for Alex.
It's got to be made the right way, though, turnip. I mean, my grandmother is no longer with us. She used to make turnip, and it was like mashed, chunky, no flavor. But I mean, we do turnip with just a little bit of brown sugar on this. So we actually grate it, do brown sugar on the stove, and just let it kind of caramelize.
Oh yeah, no, we just do straight old mash.
Good.
We're so plain Jane. It's the British side of us. Everything is plain mashed potatoes.
That was my
plain
grandma.
mash, like mash this, mash that, mash that.
That was my grandma.
Gravy, turkey. That's just my ice machine. Turkey and Yeah, she'd always make a coleslaw, and I hated coleslaw when I was a kid, and I love coleslaw now. Like, it's so funny.
I feel like we need to clarify for those listening. She was like, we do mashed, mashed, mashed. It's just the ice machine, mashed, mashed.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I'm talking Rory's growling.
We have Rory, and she's getting very
my
excited
poor
over the ice
keeps,
machine.
Yeah, keeps making more ice, and she's like freaking out. Like, what is that noise? Turn it off.
Grandma does mash, 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 ice machine, mash.
Explain that to someone who's listening in the podcast. So mash, mash, mash. Yeah, so basically it was mashed everything. And then occasionally, if she lets me bring something, I used to always do, no, it's more like Thanksgiving. Christmas Day, she doesn't really let me bring a lot. She always makes way too many desserts. They're all little bite-sized stuff because she does a lot of baking for bake sales and church things that are happening at Christmas time. So she's always doing those in big trays for other get-togethers, her bowling team or whatever. So she always has way too much. There's like 6 or 8 of us, maybe 10 at tops at dinner, and she has like 8 trays of stuff, 2 pies.
It's like small family problems, right?
Yeah,
I have the same thing.
It's just crazy because she still loves doing it, which is great. But we're not big dessert eaters. So she goes through but it's all traditional stuff. A lot of her mother's recipes. She wants to keep it the same. And that's great. So that gets that little bit of tradition. But before we get to my mother's place, this is one thing that's a little unusual. So we started this when my son was, God, how old was Alex? I want to say he was probably 10 or 12.
So he was little.
We go to the movies every Christmas Day.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yep, and we love it, especially now that the kids are of course older and working and adults in their own lives or whatever. It's one of those things that I thought he would stop wanting to do that once he grew up and went away. Like now he's like messaging me usually on the 23rd or 24th, telling me what's opening, what's going to be there, what's the show time. So we usually choose a time around that. There's usually one around 3:00. So we'll kind of meet up, whatever, because sometimes they're going to like Bree's parents or whatever, and we kind of meet up, and we always go to the movie at 3:00. By the time it finishes, it's almost 5. Go to my mother's for dinner. Done. And it's a way for us to spend time together as opposed to hanging out here and eating again, because he'd be coming over to visit and we'd be just eating, and we don't do anything during the Christmas day aside from usually hanging around on our jammies. Sometimes we watch a movie. We unwrap our gifts, but it's just Norm and I, and we don't really buy each other big things anymore. So we kind of have a little bit of a Christmas morning. We might go in the hot tub again with mimosas. But aside from that, we have a pretty quiet day. So our day gets started around then when we kind of go out for the evening. And
so, yeah, I'm not even gonna go there. I used to, because I worked so much in hospitality. I had one job. So I was raised Christian. So Christmas Day is like very, very important in our home.
Yep.
And I had one job where I started in like January, February, and they told me, so everyone works Christmas. And I said, no, I don't. I said, and actually, I am, from a religious standpoint, you can't force me to. And they were going to force me to, and I quit the job like Christmas, like the week before Christmas. I was like, I told you I wasn't working Christmas Day if you're going to insist. But it's fun. We all get together. I went, no, we go to church, and we, so in our family, it's super important. And I'm not working, so I quit. So that said, our community has expanded so much more with so many more beautiful cultures that it's not like it was in this community 25 years ago.
No.
Right? And that was, as I started to get my back up, I went, no. There are a lot of really amazing people who don't celebrate Christmas who are happy to work that day and get the extra hours. So I actually, my back went up and then my back went down.
So it
again.
wasn't the fact that we were going to the movies, was that you were upset about the fact that people were having to work that
Well,
day.
I know that people have to work. So here's my Christmas Eve thing for all you retail folks out there, because I know that, in solidarity, we all feel the same way. We either love or hate Christmas Eve shoppers.
I don't shop Christmas Eve. You're welcome.
My husband's a Christmas Eve shopper. So it was like a source of serious stress, because when we got married, I worked in retail. And I point blank said to him, you assholes are the reason why I don't get to spend Christmas Eve in my French-Canadian family with my friend, because we worked till 7 o'clock, and I would get there halfway through the celebration. Everyone was drunk already. And so as like a show of solidarity, I do not shop Christmas Eve, because as someone who wanted to get home to her family, and I had these, jerks who didn't have a clue, who didn't give a shit about their wives before Christmas Eve, all of a sudden panicking at 4 o'clock trying to find them a gift. So that was my big, kind of stick in my back. And I know my husband doesn't feel that way. For him, it's a tradition now. For him, it's a tradition.
And that's the whole thing, is that Norm actually enjoys it. He used to go shopping for the nieces and nephews. The kids shopping was his job. And so he would always he liked going Christmas Eve.
Christmas
He
Eve,
liked
it's
it when
not
it was
busy.
He liked when it was busy. No, he wants it chaos
Interesting.
in the malls and the
Yeah,
store.
no, it's not that busy Christmas Eve. Maybe first thing in the morning until about 11 it's busy, and then it dies. But realistically, after 11 o'clock, you have the mall pretty much to yourself. Maybe after noon, you have the mall to yourself, and all the Boxing Day sales often start Christmas Eve. So you're actually getting a better deal. But I don't want to sell that because we want these people to be able to go home. So again, it's that kind of that trade-off for it. So.
Yeah.
So I guess my messaging there is, recognize that people do have to get home to their families. So maybe don't do it at 4 o'clock on Christmas Eve because that's just kind of douchey.
Well, and that's the whole thing. I mean, I also was surprised the first time we found out that the movie theater was open. Because, when my son was like a preteen or whatever, bored, sitting at home, and Norma and I want to hang out in our jammies and just do nothing, and he wants something to do. Go somewhere, no one's coming over, that he wants action and stuff. So we took him the one year, by coincidence.
Happened to notice it was open.
It just happened to notice it was open. And then we thought, oh, you know what? That's not a bad deal. And I thought maybe they would only have like a few theaters open. No, full
open for business.
And it was it was mostly, you could tell there was a lot of students that were working. So there's probably students that made a trade-off, or maybe students who are here going to college, university,
the ones
and
who can't go home.
Yeah,
you get paid double time and a half or time and a half, so it's a good deal.
Yep. So I'm contributing to the economy.
We do have one. My husband has one Christmas Day routine, and it's become with our group of friends. I don't know if I've mentioned, my husband's a software developer. He's a nerd. I love him to pieces. All my nerds are like my family. And Doctor Who has a Christmas Day. As a Christmas episode every year.
See, it's one of those things. I've never got into Doctor Who. I've always said I wanted
can't.
to.
I've tried, and I'm nerdy with them. I love all the sci-fi stuff. I love all the fantasy stuff, like Lord of the Rings to Star Wars to the superhero movies. I love all of that.
Tell him there's a new one called Maniac right now.
Oh, don't do that.
No, don't tell him. Norm's into it. I thought it was too weird for me, but Norm's
and I tried Doctor Who a number of times. It scared me when I was a kid, back in like late 70s, early 80s. That creepy guy with the curly hair. He's then that woo woo. Yeah, scared the crap out of me. But I tried to watch with the new ones. I really like David Tennant and Matt Smith, a couple of the newer, or I guess they'd be older doctors now. But yeah, Doctor Who Christmas Day special. They're usually looking for it and finding it, and all of the nerds gather at my place at some point, and they all watch the Doctor Who Christmas special.
That's cool.
So that's a new tradition.
So I mean, I know a lot of people who watch like Die Hard on Christmas, the whole trilogy.
Because it's a Christmas movie.
There's still a big debate on that, whether it's a Christmas movie. So the only thing about Christmas morning, and that's why I wanted to make the pool. I'm the only one.
Yes.
I think I'm the only one left on my father's side of the family that's still making it.
So I can eat pula now?
Yeah, of course.
I've been holding off.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I just made it this afternoon, so it's still fresh.
So excited.
It's still fresh. So if you're not familiar with this Finn sweetbread, so it's basically an egg bread. So not as much egg in it as a brioche, as an example. So there is eggs in it. There's some sugar in it, so it's a little bit sweeter. It makes great toast in the morning. I like to have it fresh, and then usually, like when it gets to that day old or that second day, that's when I toast it.
Toasted, or you can make French toast with it.
Yeah,
as well,
French
too.
toast is really good with it. I made bread pudding with it.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, so I use put raisins, and I put some cream, and sometimes I'll put in
so
good.
It's
amazing. I bake it in the oven, some syrup. It's lovely.
Oh my gosh, so good.
So now you're thinking, so it's like super light. So it's fairly easy to do. If you've ever made bread from scratch, it's exactly the same process where you're doing a double rise with active yeast. I'll put not just the recipe on the show notes, but I think I can find it because I actually did a demo of this for CBC Radio a couple years ago. So I think there's a little bit of a demo about it, and you can see some of the interview, and you actually hear my interview with CBC at the time.
This is so good. I'm so excited. I'm so stealing a couple slices of this to go home before Norm gets here.
You're very sweet. I already made you a loaf.
I love you! My favorite Stephanie ever! I'm so happy!
I wouldn't make you have a little piece and then say be off with you.
Oh my god, this is so good.
Yeah, it's already in a bag for you with a freezer bag in case you have to put some in the freezer. I don't know if it's going to make it to the freezer.
I don't think it'll make it in the freezer. Between me and Puppy, my 16-year-old, he loves bread like I do. I'll get a Asiago loaf from Panera, and it's gone within the first morning.
I mentioned because I already messaged my son too. Well, him and his girlfriend. I just said, I know you guys are probably working and whatever. I just made another batch. I'm going to make another one actually tonight. I get the dough, so I get the dough started. It rises overnight, and then I'll punch it down and then braid it, and then have it rise. And then usually by lunchtime or whatever, they're ready to start putting it in the oven.
This is the best pool I've ever had.
Oh, thank you.
It really is
It
good.
is all about the cardamom. Cardamom is the number one. That's the aroma that really kind of stands out that you can smell when you come in the house. So you can get it in a ground form in most grocery stores, or if you can find it, which is even better, if you can find the whole pods and then grind them like in a spice grinder, which is like a coffee grinder
That we used last episode.
So I actually have 2 grinders in my house. One is for coffee, and then I have one for spices. But if you happen to only have the one, make sure you wipe it out in between. Otherwise, you'll have coffee scented cardamom or cardamom scented coffee, which is not always bad. Cardamom is pretty strong.
Bad. Yeah.
Cardamom would be overwhelming a little bit, especially if you're doing grain pods. But sometimes I'll take the pods and I'll grind up a bunch of it if I know I'm going to be doing a Christmas time, because I only make this once a year. So it's one of those things. My mother's coming over tomorrow, and I kept telling her I'm making a few batches this week, and she said no, I'll pick mine up on Wednesday. So she's picking up hers tomorrow, and who else is picking theirs up? Alex and Brie are going to pick theirs up for the freezer. I told her I'd make her one for her mom. I guess I made one for you. Made one for Stacy, so I'll have to put hers in the freezer till I see her next. Till she's well enough to come back to my house.
In public.
Well, go out in public. I'll probably send Loaf with Norm to his office for his clients this week. But I got some. Yeah, I have some in the freezer. It's one of those things when I get in a roll, I can just keep pumping it out, because it's really, my grandmother's recipe is very specific though. I mean, you talked about old 80s things. So she always used margarine, not butter.
Oh yes.
So I actually have tried using butter a few times.
Margarine is better.
And I used margarine this time, and I'm noticing a difference in the texture. I think it stays softer because of the oil in it.
I feel like it'd be smoother.
As opposed to the butter, which will harden it a little bit. I mean, it tastes richer with the butter, but the texture is different. It doesn't remind me of my grandmother's.
Yeah.
So she always used margarine, and she always used canned milk. Always.
Oh, like evaporated milk?
Yep. Carnation evaporated milk. That's what she always used in her recipes. So my recipe is very specific on canned milk, margarine. So
I can't wait.
But anyway, it's a fun project. It's like a full day thing. So if you start in the morning, you can actually have some, and the recipe makes like a few loaves. So
I'm excited.
So you can do one and then put them in the freezer.
I'm so excited. I can't even.
So you have to remember that we are going to be doing the New Year's Eve episode on actual New Year's Eve. So it's not going to be on the Saturday. It'll be on the Monday. And then make sure you catch it, because it's going to be all of the highlights, our favorite bits, our favorite outtakes, our favorite things that you may not have got to see or hear throughout the last year that we'll kind of be sharing at that episode. We'll also be giving you some previews of things that are happening in 2019. We're going to be at all different places, not necessarily just in the studio. We're going to be out and about.
Road trips! I can't hold it any longer. Road trips!
I basically took our whole entire recording studio, figured out how to make it in a mobile thing, and we're going to be taking it on the road. So we'll talk more about that the New Year's Eve episode. But just to give you a preview, mark your calendars. We are going to be at the Ice Wine Festival in Niagara in January. So that's going to be, we're there for January 11th, 10th and 11th.
Yeah, that weekend.
So we'll be there, and we'll have the whole schedule of which wineries we're going to be at. So if you want to come down for the weekend, or if you happen to be close to the Niagara area,
come drink with us.
Well, we're just going to be doing the Discovery Pass and going from one winery to the other. We'll go to places for lunch. The more the merrier. So if we end up with a bunch of people sitting at a wine bar someplace, that would be awesome. So everyone in January is kind of looking for a reason to kind of keep the celebrations going. So hopefully you can kind of meet up with us, or at least follow us along on social media. And of course, we'll have highlights on the podcast later that month as well. So instead of just doing a classic cheers, we just wanted to say we wish all of you a safe and happy and delicious Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Cheers.